Suzanne Singer is, come on up, Suzanne. Suzanne is a member of the Navajo tribe, also known as the Diné tribe. Is that pronounced right? Okay. And you grew up in Flagstaff, which is where you now are located also. You co-founded Native Renewables to solve solar access challenges for 15,000 families on the Navajo Nation. So you're going to talk about that for a little while, and I will get up and join you in a minute.
Yep, absolutely. Suzanne Singer, Yanishia, Tatnisat, Nishle, Nakaidin, and Bashichin, Bibatode Dashe, Doshi, Dashanella. Thank you, everyone, and hello to my relatives out there who might be listening. I'm happy, really excited actually to be back in the Bay Area. I've lived here for several years before I went to Flagstaff. I worked at National Lab for several years, and I also worked on my PhD, earning it at Berkeley in mechanical engineering. But I was actually, in preparation for this talk, kind of reminiscing on my thesis time in, traumatizing. But there was a period of time where I thought I would actually go out to my grandparents' home and work on my thesis. And so I was like, okay, if you've never been to Navajo, just imagine maybe you're familiar with Monument Valley. There's this like quintessential southwestern landscape. There's buttes and mesas. It's beautiful. There's no one around for miles. So just pretend that's like where my grandma lives, and it's not very unsimilar to that. But then I started to think about the challenges. It's like, okay, well, my grandma didn't have electricity, but I could probably buy solar panels and small batteries to charge my laptop. All right, that's done. I would need internet. I've sent a lot of emails. I'd have to check a lot of papers, citations, references. So that would be a bigger challenge. I would have to drive an hour to go somewhere to get it when I would need it. Then I was like, okay, well, if I could figure that out, great. How would I feed myself? We don't have refrigerators. We have, at best, really old ice chests that are not that great at storing food. So how frequently would I have to go to the grocery store? And that's at least an hour away. I mean, maybe more, depending on where I decide to go. And do I have to go every day? Do I have to go every other day? Well, maybe I can go to the convenience store to get ice. And that's easily a 30-minute drive. And maybe they run out of ice and it's farther. But also have to think about weather. The roads are dirt roads. If it rains a lot, I'm stuck because I could run off the road. I could get stuck out in the middle of nowhere and have no one to support me. And then what if I had an emergency? How do I make a phone call? Is my cell phone reception good enough where I am? Or do I have to go hiking to the nearest hill? So anyhow, after all this, you can imagine I decided it was not gonna happen. So did not do that, and I'm actually really fortunate, and some would say privileged, that I had other options. I could go somewhere and be able to have access to all of these things at the flip of a switch. But there's still tens of thousands, probably more, 16,000, maybe even more, families within Navajo and Hopi and other indigenous communities who don't have this luxury. They have to make these choices every single day of their lives. And it's really unfortunate, like if you have children, pandemic hits, how do your kids go to school if you don't have internet? If you have elders that need refrigeration for medicine, how do you support them if you don't have this infrastructure? And so a lot of this frustration around supporting our communities is the reason that Native Renewables was founded in 2016. The other co-founder and I, one day we were like, we need to figure this out. This is not getting solved fast enough. So that's how Native Renewables formed. I think our mission is to empower indigenous communities, help them achieve energy independence, and also be able to provide affordable access to off-grid power. In our case, Southwest has really amazing solar resources, so that's off-grid solar with battery storage. But we needed more than that to be able to create long-term solutions. So we hired some amazing people, all Native. Our organization is all Navajo and Hopi employed. We have decades of solar experience. We have electricians, installers, engineers, scientists. And so we're also creating our own workforce solutions, our own training, is because we want our own people to be technicians in this field. And part of that motivation is the historical model of outside companies coming in, dropping technology, never to be heard from again. And how do you get tech support from that place? And it got to the point where families were saying, oh, well, solar doesn't work because they did not have a good model to be able to get this power. In addition, we support education. We're trying to educate broadly all tribal nations at least the basics of solar, and that includes the benefits and the limitations of off-grid, because you don't have an indefinite supply of power. Other things that we are exploring is both Navajo and Hopi are going through a transition from a coal economy, and we are pushing for a clean energy economy. Hundreds of jobs were lost, millions of revenues were lost, and it's a really stressful situation that's impacting. And we can't work fast enough to get solutions to help rebuild and reinvigorate our local tribal nations. Some of the stuff we support, climate resilience. I know families are really nervous. I mean, some families who are really great climate advocates, they want to be independent. So when they have issues, they have the resources to manage them. So it's been really exciting. Recently this year, we've also started supporting community farms, local farmers, to support that food sovereignty and revitalization that's happening in Indigenous communities and with our own traditional foods. We're also working on the other, next is the food, energy, and the water piece of it, is how can we use solar or renewable energy to provide water. So one of the most amazing things, I think, is that we get to be there when families turn on the light switch for the very first time. And it's really empowering, because they tell us, I never thought I would have power in my lifetime. And I think that's really crazy. And I guess just a few closing thoughts before we go to Q&A is the other thing we're really pushing for is shifting from extractive to empowerment. And lastly, I encourage you all to think about what equity means to you in your companies, in your leadership roles. Do you have equitable goals? We have some really cool people who come in and want to offer us great technology, but we can't use it. We don't have internet. We don't have power. So I think just if you're not already thinking about it, is that something you're already assuming that people have, is the land, the water, the electricity, and the internet to be able to implement some really cool solutions. So thank you, and we'll do the questions.
Thank you so much. Sit here.
Yeah.
Suzanne, I didn't show you this before, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
I love Navajo art, by the way. But anyway, your people make really good art. But you see, one of the main reasons we wanted to have you here was because this issue of environmental justice has come up a couple times on the stage already. But I think what you really understand is the situation on the ground, right? And I think so often technologists just create cool stuff for their own demographic. So I really appreciate everything you just said. And I just wanted to underscore that. And, because talk a little bit more, though, about things that have happened when people have come in from the outside to try to help with solar or other energy technologies.
Yeah, I think now I'm feeling it a lot with the new lens on equity, all the new money the tribes are gonna get. We have people that are like, we have the perfect solution for you. We can't tell you what it is yet, but it's amazing. Oh, by the way, where are you located at? So I think that's the downside, is trying to sift through these offers and figure out which ones are actually genuine. I think what we're pushing for now is really asking people, what is your plan for after this project is done? And I'm not just within our projects, but on a larger scale. Like families who have had coal power plants, there's been 2 coal mining areas within Navajo, and those have polluted the local water that people had hoped would be there for their entire lives. So that impact is very strong, and so we're trying to support those community people by trying to foster that culture of asking that questions, like, how are you gonna fix this afterwards? How are you gonna clean this up afterwards? What is your plan? And can you train the local people to do it themselves? I think that's the other big thing, is I'm kind of tired of hey, we're coming and doing it for you without any thought to, we should probably have a local tech in the field. Maybe we can hire one of those people for a career opportunity that they wanna be more than solar panel day laborers. They actually want a job that's more technically, I can't think of the right word now, a little more challenging.
Yeah, you told me some great stories. Caitlin and I talked to you on the phone. You were talking about, you got to have batteries that can handle a BB gun shot at it, because that's what the kids were doing, right? And no, that's not the kind of thing that Tesla thinks about when they're designing a Powerwall, right? And also, just to mention Tesla Powerwall, you got to have internet to basically even use that stuff. And a lot of people you work with don't have internet. So I just think it's really important to contextualize this. And we are going to have a session later today entirely on environmental justice. But maybe the last question I'd love to ask you is there any kind of technology that you know you do need that you don't have?
Oh boy, I would love internet. I know there's some testing of satellite internet for communities, but I think that's a big source for business owners. I don't know if I said this already. I know a business owner who spent 3 days trying to upload an attachment and email it out for a competition. And they have decided since to move off the reservation, which is not what they want to do. But I think that is really important. Energy, the batteries, I think, are really critical to our systems. But other questions we ask are, is it recyclable? And some of the new cool stuff, they're like, it will be by the time we need to recycle it. So I feel like I would like better answers than that, but I know sometimes it's something that's in the works.
So maybe I have to say, great Elon Musk will help with his SpaceX satellites and all that, because it's part of the whole purpose is to get internet to places like the Navajo Reservation. So thank you so much, Suzanne. Really great to have you.
Thank you.